you know. But there was something I wanted to kind of just sort of talk about sort of briefly before it gets too dark and so on, too cold. Is that you know how we believe that Jesus is God, and the Jews we meet, or the Jews say, well, no, there's God, and Jesus can't be God, and the Holy Spirit can't be God because there's one God, and that's the Old Testament and so on.
Monotheism.
Well, yeah, strict unitarian monotheism. But there's work being done in recent decades by men like Peter Sheffer and a guy called Orlov, and a book which predates those books called Two Powers in Heaven.
So who are these guys?
They're Jewish. Well, I'm not sure if they're all Jewish. I'm not sure if Sheffer is, and the one before him just on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah.
But he wrote the book Two Powers in Heaven,
Right.
and he's Jewish. And the basic thing is they've looked into Jewish writings of the period around Jesus' time and a century or two before Jesus' time, looked at what they were talking about, what they were thinking, and the conclusion is that there was a widespread belief amongst Jews of Jesus' time that we don't speak of just the one God. It's not that simple. We're going to speak of binitarianism, not Trinitarianism, but binitarianism. And it's traced back first to the book of Daniel, where in Daniel chapter 7 you have the one called the Ancient of Days on his throne, and then one comes like a son of man to the throne. And so the Jews begin to see, well, who is this son of man? And you've got like the third book of Enoch, where Enoch ascends into heaven and becomes Metatron. And Metatron is sitting like next to God. And you have in another writing, Rabbi Akiva, I think it's in the Babylonian Talmud, he goes up to heaven and he sees God there and Metatron, and he says, oh, there are two gods. And then in the Babylonian Talmud, he's rebuked. Right, so that's the Babylonian Talmud. The Jerusalem Talmud doesn't have anything to do with any of this stuff, but the Babylonian Talmud does, and something called the Hekaloth as well. So there's Jewish writings, apocryphal stuff, the book of Daniel, which gives reason to believe that the Jewish mindset was not just saying strict Unitarian monotheism. There's more to it than that. And the reason I mention this and why it's particularly interesting for us is that when we have Jesus saying, like in Matthew's Gospel, no one knows the Father except the Son, no one knows the Son except the Father, and when St. Thomas calls Jesus my Lord and my God at the end of John's Gospel, and when John's Gospel begins by saying the Word was with God and the Word was God, all this, for Jewish people reading this, it's not going to be entirely foreign. It's not going to be foreign either for somebody like St. Thomas to say this to Jesus, you're my Lord and my God. Because in the 1st century AD and the 1st century BC, you've got this kind of set of ideas quite prevalent in Jewish thought. And one can say that maybe, this is a sign that today's Jews, the rabbinic Jews, they have a particular position because they want to resist Christianity. Because rabbinic Judaism, again it said, rabbinic Judaism wasn't just one thing and Christianity is another. Rabbinic Judaism developed in deliberate contradiction to Christianity. So it's not just a separate thing, it's a response to us. And so today's Jews, rabbinic Jews as they are, they're going to say things and take positions which rule out any possible connection with Christianity. But that isn't the way it was before the temple was destroyed in AD 70. Their forebears were much looser, more fluid in their view of God than today's Jews are. So we mustn't be fooled by today's Jews because they're called Jews, thinking that their views today are the same as the Jews of Jesus' time or the Jews just before Jesus' time. So that's why I think St. Thomas could credibly be said to be saying to Jesus, yes, he could be saying, my Lord and my God. So we say St. John is not just making it up when he writes and puts those words into St. Thomas's mouth. Those certainly could be, and I believe they are, but they could be definitely in a Jewish mindset the words of St. Thomas to Jesus, because St. Thomas would be perfectly open to the possibility of binitarianism. Now, Trinitarianism comes when we talk about the Holy Spirit, but the Holy Spirit is there in the Old Testament anyway. He's doing things, he's saying things.
Prophets.
Yeah, so there's no reason why a Jew couldn't accept the idea of the Spirit as an independent being. We've got the Logos in Philo of Alexandria, of course. Some say that St. John uses the Logos language, because obviously the word is Logos in Greek. So from Philo, you can see how St. John is perfectly writing in a very Jewish way when he writes about Jesus as Logos. This manifestation of ideas like wisdom, which increasingly become personified in the Old Testament, like I think Ecclesiasticus. I think this is a further sign of the complexity of God in the Jewish mind before the Second Temple was destroyed. So we have every reason to see our religion as an historic continuation and development of the Jewish religion, rather than a rupture with it, which some would often, like the Muslims, want to say, oh, ours is a rupture with the prophets and Judaism, and the rabbinic Jews of today would say that, but it isn't so. It isn't so at all, and more that's being seen. So yeah.
That's really that's interesting, because obviously what you say, a lot of the Muslims do say there's a disconnect, and the Jews don't seem to reflect what Jesus, Trinitarian, open Trinitarian.